Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Ojayam Udirayet
ततो जयामुदीरये
Adhire
Ashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu
Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu
अष्टप्रभद्रष्टेयो
Bhagavata Sevaya
नित्यं भागवत
Bhagavate
सेवया
Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavate
भगवतीतम
Uttama
श्लोके
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki
भक्तिर्भवति नश्यति
Bhagavatam
Krishnaya Vasudevaya
कृष्णाय
Krishnaya
वासुदेवाय
Vasudevaya
Devaki Nandanaya Cha
Devaki Nandanaya
देवकीनन्दनाय
Cha
Nanda Gopakumaraya
Nandagopakumaraya
Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
In the Hare Krishna. So we'll begin the 10th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the final chapter of second canto. So after this, we'll start third canto. So until second canto, the topics are not actual topics will begin from third canto. Let's put it that way. So history of Bhagavatam is given until now. And in this chapter, the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam are mentioned. It's the 10 topics or 10 characteristics of Srimad Bhagavatam is mentioned. So the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam is given in the first verse. Atra sargo vishargascha
प्रसर्गो विसर्गश्च
sthanam poshanamutaya
स्थानं पोषणमोदेह
manvantara eshu ishanukata
Manvantaris Esanukata
nirodho muktirashraya.
Nirodho
Muktil Asraya.
Yeah, let's read the. So this is Sukadeva Goswami Vacha. Let's read the translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, very good.
Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of this statement regarding the following: the creation of the universe, sub-creation, planetary system, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of Manus, the science of God, returning home, back to Godhead, liberation, and the Samam Bon.
Samambhana. So these are the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, starting Canto 3. So this is in the order, right? First is Sarga. Sarga means creation. What is creation? Creation is when Lord actually created all the elements of the universe, right? So that is the first creation. Lord, this is the sourced in Lord Himself in the expansion of Mahavishnu. Visarga is within each, when the elements are put together within each universe, the space for living entities is created by Lord Brahma. This is the sub-creation, Visarga. And the third topic, this is the first and second topics. Third is Sthanam. Sthanam means planetary systems. So once it is created, so the planets are divided and living entities will have a place. Sthanam actually means protection of the Lord. Or yeah, Sthanam means basically living entities need a place. The rebellious living entities need a place to live. So that is provided by Lord. Then Poshanam means specifically for devotees of the Lord. Right? How Lord nurtures them. So this is described in protection. Poshanam. Otayaha. So and the creative impetus means the whole, the manvantaras, the creation process itself. How the 3 levels of creation happens. That is described in Otayaha. And then Manvantara, history, lineage of devotees starting with Manu, right? Changes of Manu, how various Manvantaras and the Saptarshis. So each Manu, when he comes, there are 4 or 5 categories of aspects that are part of that Manvantara. Who are the Saptarshis? Who are the children of Manu? Who is Manu and his activities? And his rule, etc. So all of that is mentioned in Manvantara. Ishanukata, the signs of God. This is primarily many in small stories. The how Lord protected his devotees. Right? So that is Ishanukata. And then Nirodha. Nirodha means the process of going back to Godhead. Liberation is Mukti. Ashreya means Samambhano, which is the primary description of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is in the 10th canto. So each of these are topics of one canto. Sarga is in the 3rd canto. Visarga is in the 4th. So like that, one canto is describes one part of this, these topics. Let's see if anything else is there. Yeah, Sarga, creation of elements. Visarga is, subcreation, creation by Brahma. Sthanam is basically situation for the jivas, means the place for living entities out of mercy of the Lord. And then Poshanam is specifically for the devotees, how Lord maintains his devotees, causeless mercy of the Lord. Manvantara. Ishanukata. Yeah, so we described all of this. So let's go. So this is what we'll cover today in a little more detail. Yeah. Now, what is the purpose of describing these 10 topics, right? So that is given in this verse. Dasamasya vishuddhyardham
Vishuddhyartham
navanam iha lakshanam
Navanam iha lakshanam
varnayanti mahatmana
Varnayanti
mahatmanaha
shrutenardhena chanjasa.
Shrutenartena chanjasa.
Chanjasa. Okay, let's read. Please read.
To isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum, the symptoms of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic inference, sometimes by direct explanation, and sometimes by summary explanations given by the great sages. What is Summum Bonum, Prabhuji?
Summum Bonum is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Summum Bonum means Krishna. So the topic of Krishna is described in the 10th canto. Then why not directly describe the 10th canto? Vyasadeva could have done directly discuss the 10th canto, right? Because that is the essence of the entire Purana. But the rest of the 9 topics are described only to give us a clear understanding of the greatness of this personal record. Then when you read 10th canto, then you will appreciate in a much better way. That is the reason for rest of the 9 cantos. It is just like if sometimes when we want to introduce a person, to new audience, to really give an understanding of the greatness of the person, sometimes there is a great description about a person's, for example, education. Maybe we will tell about this person has passed out of this IIT Delhi, and then we glorify what that means. IIT Delhi means you have to get a rank below 100, or maybe the people in this place get placed in the best companies, or maybe they go for PhDs or whatever. So and how many people write this test, like that. It is, though it is description of the college, indirectly it glorifies the person who is there, correct? Even though it is not directly glorification of the person, the qualities that are glorified indirectly glorify the person. So similarly, all these other cantos, the 9 cantos, they are all there only to glorify the Supreme Lord, which is the summum bonum, the final topic, right? In order to correctly appreciate summum bonum, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to go through the 9 cantos in a systematic way. Then one's appreciation will be proper, right? So that is the reason for describing the 9 cantos. And this is the method in all Puranas. It is not only in Srimad Bhagavatam, all the other Puranas, whether it is Vishnu Purana or Matsya Purana, any Puranas, if you take, they all have these topics described, ultimately glorifying the Samam Bonam or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then what is the difference between Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas? That is described in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. So in this 12th canto, it is described like this, right? So we can read the translation directly. So Lord Hari, the supreme controller of all beings, annihilates accumulated sins of the Kali Yuga, Kali age. Yet other literatures do not constantly glorify him. He's specifically referring to other Puranas. But that Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing in his innumerable personal expansions, is abundantly and constantly described throughout the various narrations of this Srimad Bhagavatam. So the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam is, in every canto you will increasingly appreciate the good qualities of the Supreme Lord, and it perfectly puts one in right disposition to study Samabonam or the final canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So it is described abundantly and constantly describes about the various personal expansions of the Supreme Lord. Yeah, now let's read. So each of these the 10 topics are now explained in verses now here, right? Each mainly focusing on one. Bhutaman matrendriyadhiyam
Bhutamatrendriyadhiyam
janma sarga udahrata
Janmasarga Udahrataha
abrahmano guna vaishamyad
Abrahmano Guna Vaishamyad
visarga paurusha smrita.
Visarga Paurusha Smritaha.
Please read.
The elementary creation of 16 items of matter, namely the 5 elements fire, water, land, air, and sky, sound, form, taste, smell, touch, and the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and mind, is known as Sarga, whereas subsequent resultant interaction of the modes of material nature is called Visarga.
So this is Sarga and Visarga described here. The fundamental elements are 16 in number, and these are described here. These are the creation of these by Lord is called Sarga, and the next one is Visarga, which Brahma does, secondary creation. Yeah.
In order to explain the 10 divisional symptoms of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 7 continuous verses. The first of these, under reference, pertains to the 16 elementary manifestations of earth, water, etc., with material ego composed of material intelligence and mind. The subsequent creation is the result of the reactions of the above mentioned 16 energies of the first Purusha, the Mahavishnu, incarnation of Govinda. As mentioned in the previous words, Srutena, or with reference to the Vedic conclusions, the creation is made possible from the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly by manifestation of his particular energies. Without such a Vedic reference, the creation appears to be a product of material nature.
So in today's world, people explain the creation as interaction of material nature. But here it is clearly mentioned how everything comes from the Supreme Lord. Stitir Vaikunta Vijaya
Titirvaikuntha Vijaya
Oshanam Tad Anugraha
Poshanam Tad
Anugraha
Anugraha
Antarani Sadharma
Manvantarani Saddharma
Dharma
Karma Vashana.
Tirtaya Karma Vasana.
Please read.
The right situation for the living entities is to obey the laws of the Lord and thus be in perfect peace of mind under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Manus and their laws are meant to give right direction in life. The impetus for activity is the desire for fruitive work.
So right situation for living entities is to obey the laws of Lord and thus be in perfect peace of mind under protection of Supreme Lord. So that is Poshanam. So one full canto describes this. I think it is 5th canto. So that will describe Poshanam. And then Manus and their, this is Manvantara. Manus and their laws are meant to give right direction of life. How Manus have lived in this world. So that will give a hint on how to live in this world. Right? Manvantara, Sadharma. So they teach the Sadharma in this world. And then Otayaha, Karma Vasanaha. So Otayaha means impetus to work. The living entities in the material world want to work. Right? So when they work, what happens? I mean, the reason for working is because they have desires, right? So they have desires for fruitive results, and because of those desires, they want to act in this world, and they want to work. When they work, they may accumulate more karmas and they continue their cycle of birth and death in the material existence. So to avoid that, Lord has given Varna and Ashramas. Varnashrama. Varnashrama is what? Varnashrama is a system given by Lord to live in the material world in such a way that one will not accumulate karmic balance and will after existing in the material world, he can go back to Godhead. Right? So that is Varnashrama. And what happened with the material world? So Varnashrama is the ideal way of living in the material world, because by living according to the 4 Varnas and Ashramas, one will attain perfection and go back to Godhead. However, if the material world ignores that, then the competing material alternatives for them are capitalism, socialism, right? They're all various ways to divide the society. Capitalism in one way, right? Where it is, business-centric world, right? Economy-centric world.
Karma.
So in those ways, the world society is divided in current times, and naturally those will lead to accumulation of karmas, right? And they continue the existence of the existence in the material world. Yeah.
As such, it is the duty of all conditioned souls to acknowledge the victory of the Lord and thus become pure devotees and live peacefully in this world where miseries and dangers are always in existence. The conditioned souls who take this material creation as the place of for satisfaction of the senses and thus are illusioned by the external energy of Vishnu remain again to be subjected to the laws of material nature, creation, and destruction.
Mm. So if somebody tries to enjoy this material world, through satisfying his senses, then basically they will be subjected to the material nature, laws of material nature. Right? So people will continue their existence in the material world. Avataраनुचरितम्
Avataranucharitam
चास्त्यानुवर्तितान्
Harischashyanuvartinam
Anuvartinam
पुंसाम् ईशा कथा प्रोक्ता
Pumsam Isha Kata Prokta
वाक्यानोपबृंहिता.
Nanakyanopabrimhitaha
Avataраनुचरितम् means the history of various incarnations. Harischashyanuvartinam, right? Means the followers, the devotees, who read about that. Pumsham Isha Katha. Right? Pumsham means people who learn about the Ishanu Katha. Right? Yeah, let's read this. Yeah. Anyone? The science of God describes the incarnations of the personality of Godhead and his different activities together with the activities of his great devotees. Why is this given? Ishanu Katha. So that we will understand how these great devotees have lived their life, the life of Dhruva, the life of Prahlad, through various challenges, and how they have stood by their devotion steadfast. So that will give us, the jivas of middle world, an inspiration to return back to Godhead. By so that is the purpose of the Ishanu Katha. Can you read from here?
The merciful rod, out of his causeless mercy, descends to various planets in the material world and acts for the salvation of the conditional souls. That makes the history and narrations worth reading. Srimad Bhagavatam offers such transcendental topics of the Lord in relationship with great devotees. Therefore, the topics of the devotees and the Lord are to be given respectful oral reception.
Because it will help us go back to Godhead. Nirodoshyanu Sayanam
Nirodosyanum Shayanam
Atmana Saha Saktibhi
Atmana Sahasakti
Tirhitvanya Itvanyata Rupam
Muktir Hitvanyata Rupam
Rupena Vyavastita.
Swarupena Vyavastitihi.
Yeah. So after creation, the final thing is to winding the cosmic manifestation. That is called Nirodha. So both the creation as well as the winding of the creation is described. Yeah, please read.
The merging of the living entity along with his conditional living tendency with the mystic lying down of the Mahavishnu is called the winding up of the cosmic manifestation. Liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable gross and subtle material bodies.
Nirodha means not liberation. The living entity at the end of the lifetime of Lord Brahma again goes back to the body of Mahavishnu along with his subtle body. All the desires of the living entities are still intact with the living entity. So they all go back to the body of Mahavishnu and will lay down until the time of next Brahma's incarnation, or the day of Brahma, like that. And again they will be reborn, and they will be given places to live again in the middle world, and they'll continue their term again in the middle world. Yeah, so liberation means different. Mukti is different from Nirodha. Mukti means the jiva gets out of material existence completely, right? It will also give up his grahas as well as subtle body. This is a permanent situation. So this is the definition of mukti. Muktir hitvanyata rupam swarupena vyavastita. Mukti means what? Mukti means to be situated in one's constitutional position, swarupa, right? What is real liberation is to be situated in one's constitutional position. What is one's constitutional position?
We are servant of the Supreme Lord.
Servant of the Supreme Lord. Specifically, we all have a specific position in the spiritual world, right? In the material world, based on our desires, we are taking various forms of the bodies. If somebody has desire to sleep, he may become a bear. Somebody wants to eat, he may become a tiger. So like that, they're all based on desires. But when one gets liberated, they are situated in the spiritual world, right? So we all originally have a specific swarupa, original form. That could be a cow in the spiritual world, or a gopa in the spiritual world, or maybe some other animal in the spiritual world. Whatever, we have a fixed position, but right now we left that place and we are wandering in the middle world in various bodies, trying to fulfill our material desires in various ways, and not realizing our real form and real purpose, right? Why we are here. So mukti means actually giving up all the other forms, anyata rupam, and fixing oneself in swarupa, right? Vyavasthita means final position, permanent position, right? So our position is very fading position here, constantly changing, trying to maintain ourselves in the material world in various ways. So, but that is not our actual swarupa. Our swarupa is in the spiritual world. Yeah, please read. Yeah, go ahead.
As we have discussed several times, there are two types of living entities. Most of them are ever liberated or nitya muktas, while some of them are ever conditioned. The ever conditioned souls are apt to develop a mentality of lording over the material nature, and therefore the material cosmic creation is manifested to give the ever conditioned souls two kinds of facilities.
Continue, Mataji.
Yeah. One facility is that the conditioned soul can act according to his tendency to lord it over the cosmic manifestation. And the other facility gives the conditioned soul a chance to come back to Godhead. So, after the winding up of the cosmic manifestation, Most of the conditioned souls merge into the existence of the Mahavishnu personality of Godhead, lying in his mystic slumber, to be created again in the next creation.
Yeah. So this is the most common thing where Jiva will continue to take his term again and again in the material existence. But can continue here.
Yes. But some of the conditioned souls who follow the transcendental sound in the form of Vedic literatures and are thus able to go back to Godhead, attain spiritual and original bodies after quitting the conditional gross and subtle material bodies. The material conditional bodies develop out of the living entities' forgetfulness of their relationship with Godhead. And during the course of the cosmic manifestation, the conditioned souls are given a chance to revive their original status of life with the help of revealed scriptures, so mercifully compiled by the Lord in his different incarnations.
Yeah. So the conditioned souls are given a chance to revive their original status of life with the help of revealed scriptures. So mercifully compiled by the Lord in his different incarnations. So it's all given by Lord out of his causeless mercy. Otherwise, we have no idea. In the middle world, everybody is just trying to enjoy through their senses. But he's very merciful, and he so kindly gives us, devotees as well as scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and places like temples, right? So that we can perfect our life. Abhasascha nirodhascha
आभासश्च निरोधश्च
dosti ajavasiyate
यतोऽस्ति अद्यते
साश्रयः परं ब्रह्म
साश्रया परब्रह्मा
परमात्मेति सप्यते.
परमात्मेति सत्यते.
Yeah, please read.
The Supreme One, who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul, is the supreme source of the cosmic manifestation as well as its reservoir and winding up. Thus, he is the supreme fountainhead, the absolute truth.
So this is the Supreme Lord, Samam Bonam. This is the 10th topic. Yeah. So he is this. So he is the source of all the other topics also. He's not, he is the source of all the other topics. And he is also the reservoir and winding up. He is the one into which everything winds up. Yeah, please read.
Synonyms for the supreme source of all energies, as explained in the very beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, or Janmadi Asya Yataha Vadanti Tat Tattva Vidas Tattvam Yajnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Sabdyate, called Parabrahma, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. The word iti used here in this verse completes the synonyms and thus indicates Bhagavan. This will be further explained in the later verses. But this Bhagavan ultimately means Lord Krishna because the Srimad Bhagavatam has already accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. The original source of all energies or the Sammam Bonam is the absolute truth, which is called Parabrahma, etc. And Bhagavan is the last word of the absolute truth.
Yeah. So Krishna is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as the original Bhagavan, from whom everything comes, including even the incarnations of various incarnations, including Rama, Narasimha, Vamana, Madhusudana. So everything comes from Krishna. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. . So this is another beautiful verse. We already studied this. Krishne swadhamopagate dharmajnanadibhi saha kalau nashta drisham esha puranarko dhunodita. So this is thus by the general conclusion, Lord Krishna is the ultimate source of all energies, and the word Krishna means that. And to explain Krishna or the science of Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam has been prepared. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, this truth is indicated in the question and answers by Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami and great sages Saunaka, and in the first and second chapters of the canto, this is explained. Yeah. So basically, this means when Lord Krishna left for his Swadhama, right? There Kali, Kalo Nashta Drishamesha means the middle world became so dark that nobody can, and there is no dharma followed. So when Lord left, he left Srimad Bhagavatam, Puranarko Dhunodita. So this Srimad Bhagavatam became the light for the material world after Lord has left. When Lord was there, Lord was the source of, source of living for all humanities. He is the one who established dharma and lived, showed the example. But when Lord left, what is there? It is Srimad Bhagavatam. That is, that is giving the light to the entire material existence. Samambhava. So now all the parts of Srimad Bhagavatam, all the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam are described. So this will describe little more about the last topic, the Samam Bonam, right? Samam Bonam is the original personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. So let's read this. Yojjatmiko yam purusha
Yodhyatmiko yam purusha
sav evadika daivika
so
So
sav eva vadidalvikaha
Bhaya vicheda
yes,
yastratro bhaya
Veda
vichedaha
Purusho hi adi bhautika.
purusho hi adi
Adi
bhautikaha.
Yeah, please read.
The individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the Adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adidaivik. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called as Adibhautik person.
So individual person possessing different. So there are three personalities described here. So actually in the verse, exact translation is Ajhatmika Purushaha, Adidaivika Purushaha, Adidaivika Purushaha, and Adi Bhautika Purushaha. What are these Purushas actually referring to? Adhyatmika Purusha is the jiva when it identifies with the subtle body, right? When it identifies with the subtle body, then that is called Adhyatmika Purusha. It's not Purusha. The subtle body is not Purusha, but when the jiva, the soul, identifies itself and tries to enjoy the middle world, that's called Adhyatmika Purusha, right? And then Adi Bhautika Purusha. Adi Bhautika Purusha means when the jiva, when the living entity identifies with the physical body. When it identifies with the physical body, that is Adi Bhautika Purusha. And then the jiva thirdly identifies with the senses, right? When it identifies with the sense, especially sense devatas, means being the controller of its own senses, I can do whatever I want to enjoy in the material world, right? When it tries to see itself as the controller of its own senses, it's called Adi Daivika Purusha, right? So these are the three Purushas that are, described here, right? So why is this Purusha described? We'll understand when we read the 9th verse, next verse, right? So these are the living entities in ignorance identify themselves as one of these Purushas, right? Is that clear? Yeah. So this is a little technical verse. We'll understand in the next verse, right? But the problem is all these all these Purushas, right? The embodiment seen on the eyeballs, yeah, okay. All these Purushas, can they enjoy independently? Can, for example, for me to perceive something, I need vision, right? I need the gross eye and the subtle eye, the ability to see, the subtle eye, both are required. So they are they're not the senses and the perceiver of the sense, when the perceiver of the sense, the perceiver requires both Adi Bhautika and Adi Daivika and Adhyatmika, all the three personalities to be able to enjoy, right? Anything in the material world. Without the combination, because they are all dependent on each other. So that's what we'll learn in the next verse. When we read it, we'll understand. Ekam ekatara bhave
Ekam ektar bhave
yada nopalabham bhamahe
yada no padabham
tritayam tatra yo veda
Tritam
tritam
tatra
tatra
yo veda
sa atma swashraya.
sa
so
atma swasraya sriya.
Yeah, please read.
All three of the above-mentioned stages of different living entities are interdependent. In the absence of one, another is not understood. But the Supreme Being who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter is independent of all, and therefore he is the supreme shelter.
Yeah. So Supreme Lord is not like these Purushas, Adhyatmika, Adi Devika, Adi Bhautika Purushas, that Jivas generally identify themselves as the lords in the material world, right? When they identify with the subtle body or the gross body or the senses, right? So the Supreme Lord is independent Lord, right? It's just to describe summum bonum. What is this person we are describing? That's a completely independent person, right? So that is described here. Yeah, there's some example is given of the sun here. Can you read?
For example, the sun controls the power of our vision. We can see the sun because the sun has its body, and the sunlight is useful only because we have eyes. Without our having eyes, the sunlight is useless, and without sunlight, the eyes are useless. Thus, they are interdependent, and none of them is independent. Therefore, the natural question arises concerning who made them interdependent. The one who has made such a relationship of interdependence must be ultimately completely independent.
This is a logical way of explaining. So there are so many things that we need together to be able to accomplish anything in the middle world. Nothing can be achieved independently. So there must be somebody who would have created this dependence between the things. Yeah. Any question, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. So here it says, without our having eyes, the sunlight is useless. If we don't have eyes, it doesn't mean that sunlight is useless, right? There are other living
Oh, yeah.
beings like trees that might need sunlight.
No, from your perspective. It's
Okay, as an individual perspective.
individual perspective. See, you may have
Yeah, I agree. Yes, then it's true. Yeah.
so Jiva considers himself as Purusha, right, in the middle world. But Jiva itself is actually what? Paraprakriti. It's itself Prakriti in nature. It's not Purusha. But when it identifies with various material things like subtle body, gross body, or the senses, it thinks it is in control. No, it can do what it wants, but it is limited. It's not completely independent. So this is just a logical explanation of what is supreme controller. To really understand who. Sometimes when we read through all this, one may think, okay, Samam Bonam is myself. I am the Purusha. I am the enjoyer. So these two verses are clarifying you are not the enjoyer because you are interdependent on things. Right? Your enjoyment is interdependent. You cannot see anything unless there is light, right? Daiva, and there is the eyes, gross eyes, and the subtle eye, the perception of eye. Right? All those things are required to be able to enjoy. Any one of them is missing, you cannot really perceive. Right? So we are dependent living entities. So we can never be supreme. So that is the point it is trying to draw. Yeah. So this is the next section. So we can end here. 10th or onwards we can study next week. So basically we discussed the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So yeah. So the topics are given in Srimad Bhagavatam so that these 9 topics, the 9 topics are given in Srimad Bhagavatam so that one can appreciate the final topic in the proper way, right? Samam Bonam is the final topic. We discussed the example of glorifying a person to understand that, right? And then the second verse describes the purpose of the 9 topics, which is ultimately to understand and glorify the 10th topic. But every topic is also meant for glorifying the Lord only individually. Right? And the 10 topics are Sarga, creation; Visarga, secondary creation; third is Sthanam, the place for living entities, right? So that they can achieve perfection in the middle world. Poshanam, the loving relationship between the jivas and the Supreme Lord, his devotees. And then Manvantara, the reign of Manus. It shows how to perform one's duties in the material world through the examples of great devotees for Manus. And then the how to engage oneself in the material world, Otayaha, right? First is description of Manvantara, but then how to engage in Varnashrama properly in the material world. So that is Otayaha. Then Ishanukata. Ishanukata is the signs of God, right? One should engage in the material world through Varnashrama, but the goal is to hear the signs of God and go back to Godhead, right? So various pastimes of Supreme Lord are given in this canto in short form, right? Including Lord Rama's pastimes, and many other stories are given. And then how everything goes back to, this is a small topic, how material existence winds up, Nirodha, and then liberation, Mukti, which is to go back to the spiritual world, right, into one's own original position, right? That is Mukti. And then Ashraya, which is to take shelter of the Supreme Lord, which is the Samam Bonam 10th canto. Right? And then couple of verses describing the Samam Bonam. What is really Purusha is described there, right? It is not the Adhyatmic Purusha, Adhaivik Purusha, or the Bhautik Purusha, not the subtle body, not the Jiva identifying with one's subtle body, not the Jiva identifying with one's gross body, not the Jiva identifying with one's senses, right? So that is what we discussed today. Any questions? Okay, that will wind up. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Mhm.